Right, so good morning. This is Sunday, May 8th, Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. Um, we are here for your next installment of Toilet Talk with Dina Lynn.
Hi, good morning. No, it's afternoon.
It is afternoon.
We luxuriated. We slept in, but yeah, it's a, it, it's a, it's a, it's a heavy, it's a heavy day. There are a bevy of heavy topics.
A bevy of heavy talk.
I've never used
What?
that phrase in my entire
Wow.
life. A
Bevy.
bevy of heaviness today, and yeah, Mother's Day being one of them. So I want to talk about that, and we're just gonna flow with the real stuff here. We're just gonna make it real. So yeah, happy Mother's Day, or just Mother's Day.
Right, just Mother's Day.
Because it's not always happy. It's not always happy.
No, it's not. And there are many people out there that are suffering today because they're estranged from their children. The estranged children are suffering because they have a lot of mixed emotions about what Mother's Day means to them. And anyway, so I guess probably that's probably where we're going to start off. Anyway, I'm Dina's sidekick, Robin. Just in case that wasn't clear. So anyway.
I did not give birth to you.
You did not give birth to me.
I gave birth to many, many people.
Well, it would be kind of strange if you gave birth to me and we're sitting here having
toilet talk. It would be very strange, yes.
Considering you're only 10 years my senior, actually nine and three quarters years.
Yes. So many people know I am a mother.
8 times.
8 times. I was pregnant 11 times. I miscarried 3 babies that I know of, significant miscarriages. And many women have miscarriages, don't know. Not all pregnancies are viable. In fact, the vast majority of the eggs that we women are born with do not get fertilized, much less turn into humans. But I do know of the 3 miscarriages. They were traumatic in and of themselves. But I did give birth 8 times, starting at age 25 and wrapping it up at age 45. And yeah, I had a whole generation of kids, well, a couple generations of kids. And motherhood is one of the more significant and profound things that I have had the privilege of experiencing in my lifetime. And it's a heavy topic. It's gosh, where do I even start with such a thing? There's such inordinate pressure. You're kind of off. You got me more on the door.
Sorry.
There we go.
I'm doing my best with a camera, which I can't see through.
This is true. There's a lot of pressure on mothers. It's nearly an institution. I mean, it was the thing that many women either definitely know they want to be a mother or no way, not ever having a child, especially right now. A lot of people are
it's very
not
polarized.
wanting to have children, not wanting to bring them into this world. I imagined when I was growing up that I would be a mother. Motherhood was put on a pedestal, especially within Christianity. But even before my father was a Christian, before my family became a Christian family, the notion of having a child, becoming a mother, was seen in my household as this noble aspiration. My father was very influenced by the second wave of feminism in the 60s and early 70s, and I remember hearing all of the time that I could be anything I wanted to be in life. I could do anything. I was assured I had the intelligence and the means and the right to pursue anything that I wanted to do, but that the best thing that I could do would be to become a wife and a mother, to have influence over my children, to raise them, to raise up the next generation of humanity. And so I thought I'd have a boy and a girl, and I didn't like babysitting. I didn't particularly like younger children. they were needy and snotty and dirty and germy and, always needed something. But I I envisioned having a boy and a girl. And then I did, against all odds, because I was on the pill and I wasn't ready yet. I was a newlywed. I got pregnant with my first, and there were many mixed feelings. I was overjoyed at the prospect of, wow, my body can do this, and yet terrified. Will I be good enough? Will I know how to mother? And it turns out I did have some good instincts and intuitions, and I had a lot more love than I imagined I would have for anybody that came forward, my firstborn. And then the question was, could I love a second kid as much as the first? And I did. I had a little girl. So I had my boy and my girl. And despite still being on the pill, got pregnant again and had baby number 3, also a boy. And then 2 more boys, and then 2 girls, and then a boy. And I loved them. They were incredibly beautiful, amazing, amazing humans. Each unique, no two alike, no two alike. I could not do assembly line parenting, what worked for one didn't work for another. I had to meet them all on their own terms. And I homeschooled, starting about 4th grade with my eldest. We had tried private school, we had tried public school, and it became clear that I wanted to have more hands-on with my kids. So I homeschooled them, and then eventually I unschooled them, which is an entirely different topic. You can look it up. It's cool. It's about teaching the children to trust themselves. And I thought, this was my identity. I was the mother of 8 children. This was a deep identity. And I imagined nothing could interfere with the bond that I had with my children. But leaving their father in the way I left their father, an unthinkable way, had a huge, huge impact on them. And that trust in what I thought we had between us was revealed to, there was shakier ground than I knew there was. I didn't know then. What I've learned since is that being one of 8 children means you are traumatized, because there's only so much of me to go around. And even though I was with them 24/7, living in the house with them, educating them, living alongside them, there was no way any one person, even someone with good intentions, even someone who wanted to give them the best of what I had, there were so many of them, and they all had various needs. And I had my own unrecognized, unmet needs that I couldn't tend to all of their needs, much less their wants, even with the intention, even with 24/7 possibility of connection. So a lot of them, especially if they were more introverted, and many of them were, they didn't know how to express their needs. So there was a lot of me running around putting out fires, dealing with whatever got my attention the loudest, whatever need was the strongest. And my children got hurt. And another thing I've learned is that when we have a cataclysmic event, something that is painful, such as a divorce, that trauma in the present moment has a way of overlaying everything that happened before it with a negative taint. We see through the lens of that trauma, and then it's as if everything that was good got erased. It's part of how our brains are wired. The amygdala is out to protect us. So when something is threatening, it has a way of hyper-focusing on that negative, painful event and obliterating everything that came before that would have been positive. So,
May I interject?
Yeah, please do. Please interject.
Yeah. So when we get traumatized, when there's a safety issue, when something comes up in our childhood which feels unsafe, and what Dina was talking about with that reaction from the amygdala and the blocking out of all the positive stuff to focus on the negative stuff. What that is our brain saying, okay, here's a danger sign, here's a warning sign, here's something that feels unsafe. We're going to make sure we remember this so that in the future, if we feel this again, or something comes up, then our brains, our body can react to it in a way which is designed to keep us safe from more trauma, more injury.
We go on hypervigilant alert.
Yeah.
We're ready to self-protect, and
that becomes a pattern.
Yeah, and the brain will remember the negative things because that's supposed to keep us safe. So in evolutionary history, we were, all of the wonderful berries, and we'll remember that one bad one that killed somebody when he
or made them very sick.
Right, or made them sick, and the positive ones just. It's something like it takes 10 positive experiences to equate to one negative experience. And again, this is about survival because that's what the amygdala is about.
At some point, I would like to actually talk about that 10 to 1 thing because I was thinking about the exact opposite, but that's for another time.
Okay. Another topic, another day. So anyway, as a result of the naive, blind, unthinking way in which I exited my marriage.
Human way.
Well, human, and at the time it felt like it was a survival thing for me too. But regardless of that, I was the adult in the equation. My children were children. Some of them were adults at the time, but they were most of them were children still. And my taking for granted the nature of our relationship, the strength of our relationship, and the way in which I've learned since my own personality type being such that when I'm in pain, my pain eclipses the pain of everyone around me in my own experience. And it can be awful for someone else, for their pain to be pushed aside because I cannot see that pain when I'm in intense pain. And because of all of that, and probably other factors as well, 3 of my children have been estranged from me.
Yeah. On a side note, I would like to say that Dina has done some amazing work in starting to recognize where her pain does override everything else in her life when she's in it, and it's been a real amazing journey to see her grow with that, to see her start recognize how that dynamic works, and how even more amazing and beautiful she becomes when she can go to that space. So.
Thank you. He's had a front row seat to my life for the past 8 years, and we've had our own tumultuous relationship and dynamics. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I also wouldn't want to go through certain chapters again. We've hurt each other inadvertently, and I think that's the tie-in to the mothering. Most of the damage, harm, pain inflicted by both parents and by well, today's Mother's Day, we'll talk about fathers on Father's Day, I guess, but most of it is inadvertent. I don't know of anyone who intentionally sets out to harm their child unless we're talking about severe mental impairment, mental trauma, personality defects that would cause a lashing out. Most of it is inadvertently done by blindness to our own pain, reaction to our own pain, our own trauma. It takes forever to recognize that our parents were humans, unprepared people who hadn't even grown up yet in all the ways. I don't know why we breed when we're still in this state of not knowing who the hell we are or what to do.
Or how we've been traumatized and how we're taking that out on others.
Own stuff.
Even in the case of people who have abused their children physically and potentially even sexually, although I don't know so much about that. Most parents who use physical force to punish um, or correct their children often are doing so with the misguided idea that somehow they're saving their children from further harm by teaching them a lesson that they need to know. And the ultimate the ultimate source for that is the concern that the children need to be taught specific things, and violent or physical abuse is the only way in which they actually get those lessons. And it's misguided, but the heart of it, the intent of it, is still care and concern for the upbringing, the life of the child in the future.
It's it's all love twisted by the lenses of unresolved fear, anger, and grief.
And trauma, yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
trauma is. Is it's stuff we can't handle, and often when we're parenting, well, I'll just talk for me. As a mother who was overwhelmed by many things, including I had an addiction, I was trying to be a good Christian mother. There was so much pressure for what that had to look like. It was this paragon of virtue that was unattainable, pedestalized way too high for any mere mortal to achieve, much less do well. It's there. Mothers are set up to fail. Just set up to fail. There's so much pressure on what it means and what a mother is supposed to do at all times. And while mothering, while raising children, it's it's a frequent thing that mothers get triggered about unresolved things in their own life that happened when they were at the age of this child they're raising. Things that are repressed in the psyche in order to survive our own childhood can get triggered by seeing a child go through a certain stage, or go through an action or say something that reminds us subconsciously of who we were, and we can lash out from that place of our own screaming 3-year-old onto that child and not even know, like, what the hell just came out of my mouth? What did I just do and say?
Yeah.
And those things we hated hearing when we were children, we turn into our parents. And it isn't, it's frequent that we have to hurt our own child before we realize that, oh, my parent was only being human too. And that's a long time in between reconciling those parts. And sometimes it never comes. Sometimes those rifts are never healed.
Yeah. If any of you are familiar with Dr. Gabor Mate, he's a Canadian. I guess he still is technically a family physician, but he has made a lot of inroads in developing his own theories and observations about childhood trauma and how it affects our lives. And even the most perfect childhood can, or seemingly perfect childhood, is a playground for trauma and unrecognized pain. It directs us in ways which we can't fathom until we can start seeing the fact that even in the most idyllic settings, as children, we are set up to become traumatized in one fashion or another. And it often leads to addictive behaviors, trauma behaviors, compensations.
Yeah. We are wired such that we need complete acceptance and unconditional love. And we're at the mercy of parents who never got those things, don't know how to give those things, aren't equipped. So our brains as children are wired to interpret everything that happens to us, good and bad, as we are the cause of it. We're in a little narcissistic emotional stage for those first 7 years of life, and that's when we get our blueprint for everything that we experience for the rest of our lives. All of our emotional blueprints are in those first 7 years, and then triggers happen later to help us contend with what we could not contend with when we didn't yet have a fully developed brain. We weren't able to understand what was happening to us. So it looks like a setup, like a plan A. And the best intentioned parents can say something like, not now, I'm busy. And the child can interpret that as, I don't matter. I'm not important. I must not be good enough. to warrant mom or dad's attention.
And then that trauma can
Yeah.
lead and snowball
Yes.
down into the years, creating habits and behaviors which reinforce
Yes.
that idea subconsciously
Yeah.
without it actually ever raising up into our actual conscious ability to deal with until we reach oftentimes middle age.
Yeah. Middle age is often when we find ourselves going to therapy to say, what the hell happened? I can't do this anymore. Because the ways in which we compensate as children to survive things we can't contend with, we repress them into the subconscious where they run the show in the dark. We compensate with self-soothing, which can take on self-medication, and then we get addicted to a pattern of behavior. Because addiction is not just a chemical. Addiction is anything we do that gives us short-term pleasure or relief that ends up giving us long-term negative consequences, and yet we can't give it up.
Well,
when we keep doing more and more of that thing, or we shift from one thing to another thing in order to self-medicate, to cope.
It gives us short-term relief from
the pain,
the long-term pain.
Yes.
So, and this is, I'm stealing these quotes from Dina because Gabor Mate is one of Dina's favorite people in the entire world. He's one of her. Yes, it's one of her.
He's one of my living heroes.
Yeah. One of his phrases is, "It's don't ask the question why the addiction, ask the question why the pain."
That is Gabor Mate, and it's Gabor, not Gabor, but that's whatever. I'll say it wrong. He's used to it being said wrong. He wrote.
He is in me. Or he is in Gabor.
He is in Gabor.
Gabor.
Sorry. Mate, yes. Fascinating, brilliant man. Much compassion. Very, very human. Very real. If you haven't,
his humility is amazing.
Yeah, go look him up on YouTube. He wrote a book, When the Body Says No, about how repressed trauma turns into disease of all kinds. And then he also wrote a book, Hungry Ghost, about addictions, and Scattered Mind about ADHD. And he's writing another one about the sick culture that we live in. That'll come out in September. I'm very much looking forward to that. Yeah. So this thing about how it's all about the pain. So imperfect human people who have repressed pain give birth to people who have high needs, and it's a recipe for trauma. It's of varying degrees. We have all been traumatized by one degree or another, and at some point we all have to recognize this. We have to forgive our parents. It's not that they were perfect. That's the point. There's no perfect people. Yes, they caused pain. The worst pain I carry around personally is knowing that some of my children believe that I never loved them. I can't think of a worse thing for a human to carry around than that their own mother, the person we believe, if everyone else falls away, at least our mother will love us. So for my own children to believe I never loved them guts me. Not just because it isn't true, but because that's what they believe about themselves.
That they're not worthy of.
That they're not worthy of love. That something was wrong with them. And of course they can't, we can't live with that. That does so much damage, to believe that we're unworthy. Well, as a child, we depend upon our parents so much that we cannot see our parent in a negative light. So we will internalize all of that pain. It can't be that my parent has a flaw, because I need them to survive. So it must be me. And then later, when we start to realize, wait, they did that to me. We take all of that internal pain and we put it upon the parent and we blame them. They did that to me. And that helps us to live with that self-image, but it can cause an extreme rift between this fallen parent and ourselves. And at some point, we have to come to terms with forgiving our parents so that we can also forgive ourselves and anyone else. And some people go through a lifetime keeping up that estrangement. And I don't know what's going to happen between me and the 3 children who want nothing to do with me.
It's kind of a shame, with Mother's Day being what it is, what it was originally started out to be, which was a celebration and a peaceful reconnection with, what was her name? Anna.
I've forgotten the founder of.
Yeah, the founder of Mother's Day in 1907. Anna, I can't think of her last name. Anyway, it was supposed to be this peaceful and celebratory reconnection with a mother, which she realized her mother had a difficult time, but she wanted to honor all of the effort that went into being a mother. And it's been commercialized into this holiday where we put all mothers on these pedestals and idolize them as these perfect figures of serene support and everlasting love. And for those of us that have some of that, it's really easy to recognize and be grateful for what they've given of themselves, the extreme amount of sacrifice and commitment and dedication, even if it's only in carrying a child for 10 months and then giving it up for adoption, because that seems to be the only choice there is. Every mother, every woman who has had to bear a child or make the decision of whether or not to take a child to term for whatever reason, or doing their best to raise a child after carrying and committing to being a mother. We have these lofty ideals about what they're supposed to be, and invariably a human can never maintain that status as idol without having a great fall. And some of us are either built or taught to see the humanity of both our mothers and other people around us, and can accept that these amazing figures have had to deal with this idolization which they can't live up to, and then the trauma, the frustration, the anger, the pain that comes out of those who can't see their mothers as the amazing humans they are, regardless of the decisions that they've made. It's tragic. It's tragic that we can't set it up to see that people like this person right here, who's sitting with me and having this conversation, the humanity that is within her, the humility, the mistakes, the pain that she carries, is what makes her such an amazing mother and figure to have in my life and in her children's lives, whether now or in 20 years in the future.
Thank you. He's gotten me through some tough moments. We're talking doubled over agonizing pain at facing what I've done and how I've hurt people I love the most. And hurt people.
Not necessarily intentionally.
No. It's the legacy of the pain that we carry from generation to generation to generation. And sometimes it's shocking to have to face that we hurt people without realizing that what we were doing in the name of sometimes saving our own lives, our own sanity, actually hurt people that we love. It's shocking, devastating to face that, to the point that I've wondered at times, what difference does it make if I do anything good with helping anybody else in life, inspiring anybody else, whether it's through my art classes or hypnotherapy with people, or if I've devastated my own children's lives, what's the point? What kind of legacy do I have? And I've had to do a lot of work to realize that my life still has value, that I am here to continue living because I'm still alive. If it was over, I wouldn't be here. I'm here. I'm 60. I've got, hopefully, the last third of my life ahead of me, and I want it to count. I want reconciliation with my children on whatever level that can be. I want them healed. I want their pain diminished. I want them to be able to put that down so that they can live the lives they came here to live, even if it meant I wouldn't be part of their lives. I want that for them. But I do love them, and I do miss them, and I do want to know these people I adored as children. I want to know them as adults. I want them healed. I'm going to find my healing, no matter what it takes. I have a session in just 11 days with someone for this specific topic of how can I reconcile this? How can I heal this within me? How can I be okay with myself going forward? Because I haven't been okay. I've been functioning, but I haven't been okay. And I want to make peace with that within myself somehow. Face whatever else I need to face about this. Own it. Do the work that's required. And maybe, one day I can be in my children's lives again to some degree. But I have to be okay with me no matter what, and trust them to do whatever they have to do to be okay with them. Sometimes, that phrase, hope deferred makes the heart sick. I hung on with hope in the early years. I gave space because I was told they needed space and time. And then later I was told that showed that I didn't care by giving the space. It's been a dozen years of I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. And I haven't known what to do to show that I do love. And that I would do anything in my power to help my children heal. But I also have to heal. Yeah. It's too much to carry. So today's not my favorite day. It's not. It's one of those days where I want to kind of hide, and
I'm here to hide with you.
I know, we're gonna hide together. I did hear from 5 of my children, and I love all of them, regardless of what anybody says or believes. I wish I had done a better job. I wish I had known when I was birthing my children what I know now. I don't know why it's backwards like this. I don't know why we breed while we're still inept and clueless. Some of us don't even have our full brain yet when we give birth. And I hope forgiveness and healing can come to everybody up and down the generational lines.
Yeah, it's hard stuff for a lot of people. And I see a lot of people in pain, a lot of people suffering. And so from my end, what I would like to offer any of you willing to listen to this is that despite what you may believe about your mother or your parents in general, or what you may believe about your children, anybody that has spent enough time to bring you to birth cared. They may not have, they may not have known how to show it. Their example as a parent may be atrocious. I don't know. I can't imagine all of your stories out there. But if you're here right now, somebody cared enough to make sure that you are here full term. And even if there's only one ever bright spot in your life, the scent of a rose, the glorious beauty of a sunset or a sunrise, someone you love or someone who loves you, a child that you care for, adopted or otherwise. Those bright spots in your lives are there because you're here. And somebody put a lot of love and care, at the very least made a huge sacrifice so you could be here. It may not bring appreciation, but maybe someday you can see an understanding that all mothers deserve some amount of respect and credit. Because I don't think that anybody who could bring a life into this world could do it out of malice. Their intention is always to do something good.
Well said. Thank you. Yeah.
So happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers and all those who had a mother. That doesn't leave anybody out, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Happy Mother's Day to all the humans.
And that's really it, is we're all human. And once we understand that, then things become a lot easier to forgive and heal. So on that note, at least for me, I'm pretty well, I think, done. Done. So
Done for now.
I hope you can take this message and make use of this Mother's Day. And I hope, despite all the challenges that this day may bring for you, whoever you are, that something good comes out of watching this. We love you all, and may you take this and go forward with it.